Hi, I'm Diaria Hoopin. I'm the executive producer of the Black OurStory Festival. And I got another special treat for you guys. I have Papa Arkhurst here with you. Now, Papa Arkhurst, I've been really wanting to meet with you. I want to first give you a little brief introduction to me. So I'm a marketing director and a publicist and an Emmy Award-winning producer because I produced what's called Opal's Walk for Freedom. So have you heard of Juneteenth?
No, I haven't, but it's interesting. I think it's something I'd like to look into.
Awesome. So Juneteenth is, you know how they said the slaves came from Africa and went to the Americas, and that at some point they were freed with the Emancipation Proclamation. Well, that was a lie. So 2.5 years after that Emancipation Proclamation was when our true freedom came, and we call that Juneteenth. And so
was it in June?
So we use June as like a day of recognition, but yeah, it was around that time. But there were multiple days of freedom, Independence Days. Okay. And the reason why is because, you know, in America, and back then, 1865, there was no internet, there were no cell phones, things like that nature. So the Buffalo Soldiers had to then what? Had to travel throughout the southern, you know, where the Confederate were, and to free the actual slaves. Okay, so what we do is Dr. Opal Lee, who I represent and I also produce those events, she's 99 and she walks 2.5 miles to represent the 2.5 years it took for the enslaved to be freed.
Interesting.
So it is an honor for me to sit with someone like you to speak on behalf of how to free yourself from slavery, because it's not something that's physical all the time. It is very much mental. Absolutely. But before we get into that, I'd like to first know, how are you taking in the festival thus far? Like, what are some highlights?
To be honest with you, I am actually just dropping in, but in terms of the promotions that have been done, there have been some very interesting stories that have come up, which I have had the privilege to share with some of my communities, and I've loved the reactions that we've had. One of them was finding out about the Black women that were actually in the army, sorting out mails. And you know, it's interesting, we keep saying it's the little things. So somebody will brush it off and say, oh, that's not life-threatening, that's the little thing. But when you go into the video, the whole, first of all, the conditions of the rooms they had to work in, the conditions under which they had to work in, things that you may think simple, like just finding them the right uniform and how long it took for them to get the right uniform. The fact that nobody knows about their story. One of them was, you know, eventually the resilience, and the fact that the lady in charge was very, very specific, you know, trying to get her ladies to stand straight, to, you know, little things we take for granted, but are so important for us to take to the next level. Because it is very typical for people to complain about what is done wrong to them. And the world has never been fair and it will never be fair. But can you do your part in being resilient? Can you do your part in understanding the system? Can you do your part in ensuring that you're equipped to fight better, you know?
Awesome.
And I found that interesting. And there are a number of other things that have been also shared that really piques your interest, because it lets you understand that unless you're actively learning and figuring out history for yourself, you're looking at history and society through tinted lenses.
So just to piggyback off that, why is it so important to have festivals like this?
Well, there are different perspectives on festivals like this. People sometimes feel like, let's move on. But it's important, first and foremost, for a number of reasons. One is confidence. So when people think that, oh, I never amount to anything, or I can never amount to anything, or things can change, history allows you to understand, now you have been greater, you have been bigger, you can amount to something, you just have to apply yourself, right? When you're led to believe that this is the way things are because these are ideologies that have existed before time, and you realize, wait a second, not too long ago the dynamics were different, and you realize you're playing yourself for a fool, right? So places like this, that's the first thing. It allows us to learn. But I think more importantly than learning is dialogue. Because if we're going to free the Black mind, it's not about taking what you see, hook, line, and sinker. It's about challenging it, engaging. So I would appreciate to see, hey, you know what? I think this is bullcrap. I don't believe in any of this. Great. But are you open-minded enough to hear views? Are you open enough to test views? Are you open enough to follow the trends and be open enough to be critical about it in terms of your mind? That's where we need to be as a human race, period. And so festivals like this wake us up and give us opportunity to do that. It also gives us opportunity for something even more important, which is community. And maybe I'm going to get in trouble for this. I don't know where this is going, but I believe that we have multiple ideologies that the whole world runs on. One is capitalism, one is socialism, and I have this quote that I say, I don't subscribe to capitalism, I don't subscribe to socialism, I subscribe to Africanism. I just don't know what it is. But I think one of the key things that we look at as Africans is that we're communal, or we're supposed to be communal, which means even the methods of measuring have to change. So I'll give you a scenario. I was in a startup workshop recently, and when it was being presented in terms of successful startups that have started and doing well, most of it was about how much funding have you attracted, how many customer bases do you have. But that's actually a capitalist model, because your idea of success is wealth or attraction or money or capital. But for a communal community, we measure success by impact, by connections, by how many mouths you fed, And the dynamics are also different. I was having this conversation with somebody. I said, in the US, you can literally be a millionaire and be staying quietly in some apartment, mind you, and decide, I'm not getting involved in anything. And it works. In Ghana, you cannot. Like, if my brother is here, my cousin is here, what? Everybody will know, and you will have to help everybody out, because we don't have a problem asking and sorting, So if that person has made that money, you've pumped in the capital, and the person has to feed 500 people, meanwhile your system doesn't allow for it, you're going to say he's wasting the money, he's embezzling the funds, or whatever it is. But meanwhile, that person may actually be impacting the economy because he's feeding 500 people. But we don't have the tools to capture for it. Right? So these programs like this allow us to think around it, engage around it, debate around it, get different views on it, so we can continue to refine some of these processes, some of these ideologies, some of these things that need changing in our minds.
All right, awesome. So you spoke about openness, and I started off letting you know, like, my story and history with Juneteenth. One of the things that came up in my studies, and shout out to Dr. Freedom for putting this on me, a lot of people say when it comes to Juneteenth or just the African story, that it doesn't involve everyone, right? They're like, oh, well, white people didn't have this problem, or Africans didn't experience this. Well, we stand firm in this ideology that it's not a black thing, it's not a white thing, it's the right thing, okay? And I know that's more of a Western mindset, but I'm saying that to say that Dr. Freedom taught me this, that slavery was a dual process, meaning that if we were enslaved and changed, then someone had to hold the key, oftentimes white. So to pull that full circle to what it is that you speak about, mental enslavement, how important is it for people to understand that they are the ones that are keeping themselves enslaved, and that they can also see themselves in the story? And that's a diverse story, that it's not just, the Africans, it took others to come together to free. So that means if you yourself are to be free, it's going to take others to come together as a community to then free. Can you kind of speak to that?
All right, so we have this African saying that when you see somebody's house burning or somebody's beard burning, you should fetch water, okay? So that if your beard starts burning, you can, put it off. But there's a deeper context to it. When that neighbor's house is burning and you don't care, eventually the fire will spill over, right? There are a number of things that happen. Either the fire will spill over and burn you, or you can learn from what is happening to him, so you equip yourself, so if fire does come to you, you can protect yourself, right? Or you can learn certain lessons from, bringing them out, or they can even owe you a favor, which is another form of payment that we don't think of. A lot of times we think money, but favors are actually currency as well, right? So what am I saying? What I'm saying is slavery can never have been abolished without all parties coming together. Neither could the civil rights movement have worked, right? Because different people have keys to different areas that have to be opened. But there's another thing which I keep telling, sometimes we talk about, especially with friends who are doing well, right? You can never truly enjoy freedom if you have people suppressed around you. Let me give an example. If we had a lot of hooligans outside of Coconut Grove right now, would require to pay extra security to keep them out. If the next door neighbor is hungry, I have to lock my door. And mind you, there was a time when people did not even lock their doors around in Ghana and everybody was safe, right? So when there's that disparity, there's always a problem. So it's a problem. It's a duty of everybody to get involved to ensure that everybody's doing well, so we don't have to live the way we have to live. If you think that, oh, you know what, and I had a very interesting conversation with a police officer recently. You know, I almost ran a yellow light and he stopped me and he was, getting on. But it wasn't even the fact that he was saying you were wrong. It's how he said it. And so eventually I stepped out and said, look, I'm not arguing with you, but I want you to understand that I need you to remember that you're a human being and I'm a human being. And you're right, you're a police officer and you have the power behind you, and I won't fight with you because the system is set up to support you. But before you became a police officer, we're brothers. So let's treat each other decently. And I remember he was like, so why were you almost? And I said, you know what? I got so caught up in my conversation that, I was listening, but I saw you and I stopped. Then he said, yeah, but you guys, when you're driving, you need to, don't be talking. I said, but I can't do that. He said, why can't you not do that? I said, because we're human beings and we're social creatures. And to say I should not talk is taking away so much from me, right? And we laughed about it and everything. But the point is, this world is a system of communities, and when we forget to be communal across boards, we cannot continue to survive, regardless of what color you are. Now, we learn from history so we don't repeat it. I have cousins that have literally said, you know what, if you're not black, or if black people had been in power other than white, you would have been as racist as the next person. How do you say? I say, yeah, exactly, because when I see your way of you think and look at things, you're just as racist, or you're even terrible, right? The dynamics can easily change. But if you don't understand the history and how we got there, then you can never really make the right decisions to prevent yourself from repeating it.
About being a community. That's why it's very important to have community leaders, and we're going to keep it real right now, right? So as community leaders, talk about some of the people that paved the way. How were they able to resist mental slavery? We have some of the greats like Kwame Nkrumah. We have Marcus Garvey, and these are people who sometimes they don't even know who they are, and we're right here in Ghana. How important is that have leadership in this types of movement?
There's a story I'm going to share, and it might be part of what I share in my talk. I have and let me just put this out there so they don't think I'm being biased, a full disclaimer, because he's my great-great-grand uncle, right? But his name is Kwejaragre, and he's called the Man of Africa. Now, Kwejaragre did a lot, but very few people know about him because the story is not told much. But why I bring this story up is because I saw an Achimota, a friend of mine who was in Achimota school. And I was having a conversation with him, and this name came up. And his response is, isn't that womanizer? Now, I will explain to you why he called him a womanizer. Kwejaragre is famous for the quote, you educate a man and you educate an individual. You educate a woman and you educate a nation. That's actually who it came from. Okay. But just because of that reference of educate a woman, nation, a young man who went to the school that this man co-founded is asking me, isn't it that womanizer? That is the level of ignorance. That's what ignorance does to people. So he discounts somebody who has so much to teach because he's not reading and he's not learning. Yeah. What those people did, and especially people like Martin Luther King, is one, they were consistently feeding their mind. The fastest way to emancipate your mind is to feed your mind. Two, they were open-minded. Now, here's the thing about being open-minded. Open-minded doesn't always mean you're being susceptible to be changed. Open-minded means you understand where the other person is coming from so you can make your case accordingly. And it's not just about making your case to win. It's finding an integration point where both of you walk away. So in critical thinking, a lot of people think of critical thinking and they have different definitions for it. But critical thinking, from my understanding of it, is the quality of it's your ability to come out of yourself and say, am I thinking correctly or do I have to refine my thinking? And one sure way of enslaving your mind is when you think this is what my father said and my father's father said, and don't look at any other view. And that's that you're trapped in it, right? Critical thinking also has multiple domains. There's the typical one we all know, which is logic and argumentation, which has to do with systems in place to make sure that your premises make to a logical conclusion. Then there's rhetoric, which is a tool that a lot of people use to submerge others and bully them into believing things they have to do and confuse them, right? But there are two other domains that are very important. Knowing the background of who you're having a discussion with and why that background has shaped their thinking, so that you can properly help them to navigate it and see where there may be flaws or not. So if somebody was on the moon and told me, you're a liar, you said when you jump, you come down, but it's not true. When you jump, you keep going up. And I say, no, you're a liar. When you jump, you definitely come down. We need to both consider the fact that I have gravity, their gravity is lower. So the reality is different. He's not lying, it's just a perspective. The final one is, does he have the attitude to want to learn, or does he have the attitude to just want to win? You know, and I'm a communicator, so one of the things I just discovered lately is that sometimes, because people lack the ability to express themselves, they say one thing, but they actually mean another, and people jump on what they've said and bully them. But you said this. But when we do that, we don't find solutions. We just find ways to win and look good. So even as communicators, now we have to be more aware of saying, listen, observe, try to figure out what the person is trying to say, so you can help them say it rather than just taking them at their word and trapping them and keeping them. So mental freedom is giving people the space and helping people express themselves. Because if I just want to look good, and mind you, our leaders, when we say leaders, that's what the other leaders that did well did. You have leaders who want to look right and look like they're doing much. So what they do is they shut the people down. They do some little bit of statistics, say, hey, we're doing well, but it's not really solving anything. No, it's not. It's painting. So you need to be somebody who's ready to communicate and listen and understand what the people want, to give them the freedom that they want. That is the type of leadership that we require. We also need to be able to understand and read about whoever your oppressors are. Because if you don't understand your oppressors, you cannot work to get freedom. And that's what these guys did. They learned about the oppressors. They learned how to engage them. Thirdly, you need to understand how the world works. So one thing I tell a lot of people, and it's something I wish every person who is poor or in trouble understands, okay? So a lot of people go begging saying, I need food, I'm hungry. And we are human. Yes, we should appeal to sympathy, right? But even though we should appeal to sympathy, we should also remember that people are also selfish. It's just the way the world is. So when you appeal to somebody's sympathy, it's easier to appeal to what is value to them than what is sympathy to them. What do I mean by that? I am hungry. Do you have some shoes you need cleaning so I can clean so you can pay me for it? As opposed to, I'm hungry, give me because I'm entitled to it. Which is the way a lot of us act. So when we understand that, okay, this person has the keys and here's mine. And also when we understand they're human beings. Because you can just say, you know what? That's the devil. He's keeping me enslaved. He's wicked. But that person you're seeing as a devil was not born a devil. He was conditioned. You see what I mean? Conditioned. Now, conditioned. You see? So a lot of times we say, oh, but I would never treat a human being like that. And I say, okay, but would you treat a cockroach like that? They say, oh yeah, but I would. I say, have you considered the fact that in his mind, he has started seeing you as a cockroach? Like, wow. When you read certain books from Kwame Nkrumah, for example. Sorry, and there's this book on neo slavery. Yeah. There's something very interesting that he proposed, and I said, wow, this is interesting. That originally, a lot of people think slavery started because the white man thought I'm better than the black man and saw them not as human beings. But he explained, no, it was actually a strategic move for taking territory. And so it was actually originally, these are human beings. We want what they have. But then beyond wanting what they are, now let's devise a way to make them so small that part of us won't feel bad. You see what I mean?
So what I'm hearing a lot of that is educational. It's mental, right? So mindset. And language it plays a big role in it. So I want you to leave our guests with maybe some type of affirmation that they can possibly say to themselves to kind of just start curving this thought process. Is there something a way that we can word things? I know you gave context to how we could word, but is there an affirmation we can just maybe start off with?
There's more.
Okay.
There's more to the story.
Okay.
You know, once you understand that there's more to the story, you have to choose to want to know more. Okay. I would have loved, and unfortunately, I'm not doing that today because I don't have enough time.
Okay.
But sometimes I like to unpack the difference between scarcity mindset and abundance mindset.
Okay.
And it's amazing how the mind can make you see what is not there, and vice versa, and manifest.
So powerful.
It's a powerful thing, and you need to understand it, because if you don't, then you say this is the truth when it's not the truth, because it's your mind making it look like the truth.
Got it.
So scarcity mindset, for example, will tell you there are always scarce resources, and everything you do is to preserve that scarcity. Abundance mindset says it's okay. There's more. So if there's one thing I want to leave, there's this, and I think a number of speakers that speak better than I do have profited this, but I was this Uncle Tom model where, you know, the one house nigger, right? And it was very interesting because for a long time we've always said black people, crops in a barrel. Black people, crops in a barrel. What is it about our skin where we don't like to collaborate, blah, blah, blah. But you have to understand the history, which is part of the reason that these festivals are so important. Because it actually came from, hey guys, there are a lot of you slaves, but there's one position. Only one person can get it. So even when we were freed physically, our mind still tells us there's one spot. So I'm sitting here with you right now. If an opportunity comes, I don't even ask, is there more? I just kick you and I run for it because I believe that there's only one. So there's more, figure it out, open your mind, and just find ways of expanding it.
Awesome. You guys, we're here at the Black OurStory Festival with Papa Arkhurst, learning how to resist mental slavery. Okay, so tell everyone out there, how can they get in touch with you? How can they start on this journey to getting freedom?
Well, I've written a book on the never-ending journey to leadership, and the reason leadership is important is because if you walk, you can go fast and walk alone, but if you want to go far, you go with people. And so as you free your mind, if you free your mind, you're still going to be a slave if you do it alone. But if you free your mind and you free the mind of others, then you reinforce it and freedom becomes reality. So read more, educate yourself more, learn more, get a copy of my book. If you need to get in touch with me, my last name is ARKHURST. That's Arkhurst. And my email is arkhurst@gmail.com. I was one of the first people to get Gmail.
Okay.
Yeah. So arkhurst@gmail.com. Just feel free to write, connect, and I'd love to connect with you.
Awesome, guys. Again, you've heard it here at the Black OurStory Festival. It is a pleasure to have you here, sir. You guys go ahead and just, gain freedom.